Good day, you beautiful people of Plaantik. We are back again with the second episode of the Plaantik podcast. And today I'm your host, Tawsif. And with me I have the Atul Jos from the Atul Jos show, which is Ahnaf Ahmed. How are you going, Ahnaf?
I'm good. I'm super excited to do the podcast again. How are you, TBA?
I've just had one of the worst events of my life this weekend, and it's doesn't concern United, but it does concern football. I just had a ligament surgery, and right now, if you could see me, I've got one leg up on a desk and the other down. But
Yeah.
at least I can do some podcasting with you, and
Yes.
flowing back from last week, we've had a pretty good discussion about player loyalty, and
Yeah.
this week our topic is going to be manager loyalty, or rather specific manager. Is it going to be Wenger in versus Wenger out, given the latest usual annual Wenger out brigade sighting at this time of the year?
Yeah.
So, Anna, quick question. Are you Wenger in or are you Wenger out?
I used to be Wenger in, but I'd have to say I'm Wenger out right now.
Follow-up question. Why?
I knew this was coming. For a lot of reasons, I'd say. I think Arsenal fans have a massive amount of respect for Wenger, and they should. And I think the entire football world, actually, and especially fans of the English football, because he produced the Invincibles, he produced some amazing Arsenal teams. But I think after moving to Emirates, and obviously he had a lot to deal with in terms of how to manage the club financially and in terms of the sporting aspect of the club as well. But for the last 2 seasons, I think he has had the opportunity to go out and win the league, but he hasn't. And I think there's a problem with his mentality right now, and that stems to the players, to the team, and there's a negativity around Arsenal. I mean, there's no. I see Arsenal fan TV, and everyone says that they're going to bottle it, and there's a belief, there's a belief that they will bottle it. And that has gone through like cancer throughout the football club, from the players to the manager to the fans, even to the opposition fans, because they know, even the opposition teams, because they know that Arsenal will bottle it, and it's something that has to change. And I think it comes from the manager.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I can feel, how toxic the fan base and everything on
Yeah.
Arsenal has become over the years. And, I've started watching football since, the glorious United versus Arsenal days of the
Yeah,
Vieira
yeah.
and Keane. And
Keane.
for me, Arsenal has been my greatest rival, more so than
Yeah.
Liverpool and City personally.
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, I have felt the great pleasure of them, not really winning much over the last 10
Yeah.
years, other than a few FA Cups and, of course, the Champions League spot. However, I don't see why, how getting rid of him would be necessarily better. I understand the mentality side of things, but
Yeah.
do you think it's more to do with the manager, or it's more to do with, just the overall, the overall environment in Arsenal for any other reason? I mean, why does this have to be the manager?
For me, the reasons are pretty simple. I look at Arsenal about 5 years back, and I look at Arsenal now, and this Arsenal team is actually, I believe, is good enough to win the league if managed properly. I think on paper, I said to my friends that on paper, I think Arsenal and Spurs are the favorites to win this season, because all the other big teams were unstable. Chelsea had a new manager, United had a new manager, City had a new manager, Klopp just came in. Leicester were always going to struggle. So I thought the only two stable clubs right at this point, at the start of the season, were Spurs and Arsenal. And I said, look, this is either Arsenal's or Spurs. And Arsenal haven't made the impact I thought they would, given the fact that they had a very, very, very strong squad. On top of that, they got Mustafi, a defender they really needed. And they started off well, but it's again the same thing. They started collapsing, they started dropping points, where you'd think a title contender would be able to get those points, and then came the toxic environment, as you pointed out, and as I pointed out at the start. The fans started to believe, oh my god, this is not going to happen again, and it stemmed through to the players. I felt, because in games where they should have shown what they're made of, the how strong how strong they are mentally, they didn't. Against Chelsea, they were pretty poor. I mean, Chelsea just brushed them aside, and they had no answer to it. And I think mentally, Arsenal cannot motivate his players anymore. And the players sometimes need that motivation from their managers. Look at what Conte has done to Chelsea. Look at what Klopp did to Liverpool when he first came in, and now look at what Mourinho is doing to United. There's a spring in their steps. The players are jumpy. The fans feel something's happening. Even Pochettino gets going when Spurs get going. So, but you don't see Arsene Wenger having that same impact on the players or on the fans. If the fans are glued to Conte, the fans are glued to Jose, the fans are glued to Pochettino, even Klopp, and so I think there's a lack of connection between the fans and the players and also the manager. So I think mentally, Wenger isn't where he's supposed to be, and the team don't have the winning mentality anymore, I feel, and I think it changes with the manager.
The thing about mentality, though, I completely agree there, because I remember even a few years ago, I think Arsenal was leading this game against United, and it was like a 2-0 or 2-1 or something, and Wilshere was getting all jumpy against Fellaini for no reason, and it was just a random instance. It probably doesn't have much impact, but they're up against United, and at the same time they don't have that mentality,
the killer
to
instinct,
hold back and really see it through. And that kind of showed the rest of the team's mentality, and I agree with you in a tangent there. But having said that, I personally agree that it should have been either out a few seasons ago. I've always been Wenger in from the start, but I've been out for a while, and then now I'm back to kind of leaning towards in again. I know it sounds rather weird, but I think the best opportunity for Wenger out was last season or the season before, when there was so much shuffling. So right now, I would say even if it's Wenger out, who would you rather have him instead for to take Arsenal to the place in the top 4 and keeping the Champions League, and not just keeping in that same level but taking them further, because I think that's the only difference, right? It's the gap from being in the top 4 to being league winners to being like leaders in the Champions League. Who other than Wenger at this stage can actually bring that in? Because all the managers have changed positions over the last season, and I personally can't see anyone else who'd be willing to change their teams currently.
That's a valid point. I think that's the only thing that's saving Wenger in some aspects, because I think the point where you made the fact that there's a difference between Wenger and the other top managers, because Wenger isn't able to take Arsenal to the next level, and I think that's where the question arises: what do we do next? Who is the manager who can take us to the next level from Arsenal's point of view? And I think if you look around, I think there is only one option available, really. I think it's Diego Simeone, if he becomes available. Other than that, it's very difficult, because I think there's Tuchel at Dortmund. I don't know, will Enrique be available or not, but I think these young managers are a good option, because
there's been talks about Koeman as well.
Ronald Koeman from Everton. So I think these young managers are probably the answer, because I think Wenger came from, we have to say that he came from Ferguson's generation, some sort of. He's the only, oldie left around now. So I think Wenger is, he has reached his prime, and I think he can't go any further in terms of motivating his players, in terms of tactically getting it right against in big matches, or even getting his system right in particular matches. I think that is the issue here, because there needs to be a manager who can take Arsenal to the next level, because Arsenal's squad isn't bad. This is a very, very, very strong squad that Arsenal have. So I think it's not about the players anymore. It's about how you manage those players and get the best out of them. I mean, you look at Arsenal playing against Chelsea a few weeks back, and there were no leaders on the pitch, and that is a sign of weakness. Even though they have so many good players, but no one's taking charge. No one's really putting the feet down and saying, "Look, I'm going to lead you guys to the place where we should be." And I think there has to be some responsibility on the managers as well as the players. But for me, I don't see Wenger taking Arsenal to the next level anymore. I think his best days are behind him, and I think it's time he makes way, and hopefully one of the younger ones come in. For example, Tuchel or Simeone, something like that.
Yeah, but I think from my perspective, it's just that. Do you think the management, other than Wenger, the top level management is at fault as well? Because, Wenger has had to take the load of a new stadium, of high prices of tickets, and all that stuff. And I know, if Wenger retires this season, he shouldn't be held responsible for whatever happens the season after, because he's not liable of preparing, the next Arsenal team after he leaves, because Sir Alex didn't, and to be fair to any manager, they shouldn't be held responsible for what happens after they leave. It's the management, right? However, I guess if you compare United to Arsenal in this instance, after Sir Alex left, I think United had enough rapport and financial stability to do what they're doing now.
Right.
It's to attract any manager, it's to attract most players, despite not having Champions League and things like that. And I think once Wenger leaves, the management is not prepared enough over the next season to keep them where they are or even take further. Because, what I can see from here on, if Wenger leaves, there's going to be absolute chaos at Arsenal, because the management has not prepared for his departure. And for that reason, I think Wenger should be in for at least a couple more seasons until there's some sort of a handover or a change or some sort of plan, because I can't see a top 4 finish from Arsenal straight out after Wenger leaves.
I think one of the ways to look at it is to think Arsenal are now stagnated. I think there's absolute stagnation at Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal not moving forward, or they're not even going down. So they're just in the middle somewhere, going back and forth for the last, I don't know how many seasons. So I think the reason I ask for a change is not because I'm saying it will be a success. Maybe it'll be a failure. It will be a total disaster like United after Ferguson. But I do believe personally, even though I'm a huge United fan and a Ferguson fan, I think the team Ferguson left United with and Moyes with was far, far, far worse than what Arsenal will leave to his next manager if he leaves this season. Because I think this Arsenal squad is very good, but I don't think Arsene Wenger is the manager who can take them to the next level. So I think the next manager has a fantastic base on his hand, will have on his hand, and if he's good enough, I think he can take it to the next level. Now the question about whether the management is equipped to take over after Arsenal's departure, I don't know. It could be a disaster, as I said, and I think even that change is important for Arsenal, because maybe then they will have to fix the management as well, not only the managers or the players.
So
maybe that'll be a
so
wake-up
for you,
call.
it's more like either settle with mediocrity with Arsene, or basically just go for any change, whether it's immediate change now, which will be positive, or immediate negative change, which in the long run will be helpful for Arsenal.
Right, exactly. So I think that is important.
I buy that. Yeah, I can buy that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to sell.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. I mean, you're saying you're asking for a change that will not 100% guarantee success, but has a massive probability of failure, and you drop out of the Champions League zones, off your comfort zone, where Arsenal fans have got used to it, because they won the league, because they want to be one of the top clubs. So maybe there has to be a sacrifice for a season or two, the way United fans had to go through.
Exactly. And I think there needs to be a goal in mind as well, because, you know, for example, when Sir Alex left, I was prepared that we were not going to win the Premier League for at least 3 to 4 seasons, even
Yeah.
with, you know, the amount of money we'd spent and so forth. Especially with David Moyes, I know Sir Alex vouched for him, but given his record and the way he spoke in the press conferences, just lost me over a season. With Louis van Gaal, it had some signs of, you know, improvement over Moyes, but at the same time, you know, there wasn't much change. And finally, now I can see Mourinho really, you know, polishing everything that was, you know, is there. And for me, again, the goal of this season was not to win the Premier League, but to be in the top 4.
Yeah.
Exactly, to be in the top 4 and be, you know, involved in the Champions League run, or at least be involved in most cup runs.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Arsenal is they don't have a goal in mind. Every season they go into a season and they're not sure
what to
go for. Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're happy with top 4. I've had Arsenal fans come and tell me, oh, you know, which other team has qualified for Champions League for this many years?
Yeah.
I don't think that's an achievement. In the grand scheme of things, it is an achievement, okay, given the circumstances. But if that's what you're happy for, then I guess I understand why it's Wenger out. Yeah. But I personally think it should be Wenger out for at least. It shouldn't be Wenger out for at least another season, because it just, I think, is too much at stake for Arsenal. Given if Sanchez leaves or if Ozil leaves, it's going to be massive. Yeah. So, if you had to choose just one manager to replace Wenger, who would it be?
I like three managers. I'd say from England.
One. Okay, choose one.
Just one. It's Diego Simeone.
And if you had to bring in 3 players to change Arsenal, who would it be?
Wow, that's a tough one. Probably someone like Nainggolan.
Okay, it's a good one.
Yeah, so, I'd probably go for a striker. Someone who's been successful in England. Maybe Lukaku. It could be a bold move, but I think Lukaku could cut it at Arsenal. And a left back. I think someone like Ricardo Rodriguez, or I don't know, one of the better left backs around. So I think a left back is needed for Arsenal, or a keeper.
Those are top choices, man. I mean, you should really consider going for Arsenal's position.
Thank you.
Anyways, I think that's all the time we have for today. We've you know, gone past our usual 15 minutes mark.
Yeah.
But that is it from my end. I will say goodbye, and it's a goodbye from me and Ahnaf. We'll come back again next Monday with a brand new episode with a more controversial topic. I don't know. Was this controversial, Ahnaf?
I think so. I think Arsenal Fan TV would like to have us.
Well, one thing's for sure. I'm looking forward to Gary Neville's,
reaction
appearance in there. Because I don't know if you know, but there's been he said he wants to appear there. So anyway, I know I can take on Ty and Claude, so that should be good. So that's it from us. We'll catch you again next Monday, and until then, keep calm and don't miss the content.